Hey knitters, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carrie and I hear you're looking for an interchangeable needle collection, but you're super confused because there's so many options out on the market. Well, I've got 6 sets of these bad boys in my collection, and today I'm going to review them all for you. So if you want to know why you might want to choose Hiya over Knitter Pride, stay tuned. So what set of interchangeable needles you eventually choose to invest in a lot of ways has to do with personal preferences. We all have them. I have mine. I'm going to share with you as much objective information as I can about these sets, but I will also be giving you my personal impressions. So up front, I just kind of want to go over what my personal preferences are in terms of needles, just so that you have some context for what I'm about to say. I have 6 sets of interchangeable needles, and 4 of them, yes, 4 of them, are metal needles. I like my needles slick. I like my needles slicker than a greased pig in a mud pit. I mean, I want my stitches to be flying off the needle. What you do give up with having really slick needles is a feeling of control. So some people don't love that. That being said, all of the sets, well, I believe most of the sets that I have also come in bamboo or wood varieties. So there's still going to be information about those needle sets that's going to be helpful for you in making a decision into what you might want to buy. So I've thought a lot about how I was going to shoot this video in my head, and I was like, do I rank them? Do I, just do it randomly? What I've decided to do is in this video, I'm going to go through each set by brand, and then I'm going to go ahead at the end of the video and rank them all for you. In addition, hey there, it's Editing Carrie. I thought instead of doing this over a freeze frame that I would just go ahead and show you some of the speed tests that I did in preparation for this review. As I expected, this video has become very long, so in the interest of time, you can assume that unless I state otherwise, the set of needles I'm discussing includes connectors, which allow you to make longer lengths of cable, and include end stops, which allow you to turn your cable into a stitch holder. Also, with interchangeable needles, the connection between the cable and the needle, that it's smooth, that it's secure, is really important. Unless I say otherwise, you can assume that the needle I'm reviewing has an excellent join. As always, if you want to skip around to any part of the video, I have timestamps in the description box. And let's do this. All right, so the first set of interchangeable needles that I want to talk about are my Denise Interchangeables. This is actually the first set of interchangeable needles that I ever got. The Denise Interchangeable system is actually somewhat unique amongst all of my interchangeables needles. For one thing, the needle itself, this is a plastic interchangeable needle set. The nice thing about plastic is it's very light and it has some give to it, which if you are a knitter who has any issues with arthritis or hand strength, sometimes having a plastic or acrylic needle that has some flexibility to it is a nice alternative. As I said in my introduction, I like really slick needles. This is plastic, so this is not the slickest of materials. The stitches on the left needle just don't glide down as quickly, and this is maybe the least sharp tip in my collection. When I'm talking about the tip, I'm talking about this here. And the taper on the needle, it's not short, but it's not a long taper either. So I personally just find that this is one of the slower needles that I work with. The way this system works is they have these cables like this and the needle, and it just pops on and you twist and it's locked. So it is very easy to get these on and off of the cable. Notice what I just said, on and off. I have, when knitting with these, had the tip come off while I'm knitting. And let me tell you, that is a pain in the tuchus when your needle comes off. So I do not like this knitting cable. It is a rubber tube, basically. It's thick. You can see here, because of the way this is stored in this case, all these cables have a permanent bend in them, and they're not inflexible, but these are definitely a little bit stiffer of a cable than other sets that I have. And I just find them a little trickier to work with. In truth, this may be the first interchangeable needle collection that I ever got, but this is probably the last one that I reach for. Next, I'm going to discuss my Knitter Pride needles. I have 2 sets of these, and like the Denise Interchangeable needles, I would say this is a more economical set. That being said, Knitter Pride has a large array of materials and configurations. They have wood, they have aluminum, they have acrylic. If there is a material of knitting needle that you are interested, Knitter Pride probably has you covered. One set of interchangeable needles that I have are these. These are the Nova Platina Cubics needle. What makes this unique is that they are square-shaped. Why would you want a square-shaped needle? Well, I don't know if this is actually true, but people claim that the square-shaped needle is more comfortable in the hand, that it's ergonomically better. And I have read claims that the square shape gives more even tension. I don't know if all that's true. I do know that these are very comfortable in the hand. The Knitter Pride's Platinas, these are made out of hollow brass with a nickel coating. They call it a chrome coating. These are very slick needles. This is my 3rd fastest needle. These stitches are just coming off the needle so nicely. Oh, it's like slipping into a warm bath. So Knitter Pride's, all of their needles are a screw system. And in a screw system, you have a male end and a female end. And if you're an adult, you understand why they're called male and female. For Knitter Pride, the male end is the cable, the female end is the needle tip, and you just insert it and screw it on, thusly. Here's the important thing with any screw system like this, is it comes with a key, comes with a few of them, and you insert it into this hole here, like that, and you use that to give yourself enough leverage to give it a final twist. If you do this properly, you get this tightened on, this needle tip will not come off by accident. But you've got to use your key to do it. The hole, by the way, on these sorts of needles has a nice additional function, which is you can insert a lifeline into that hole. So it's very easy to use lifelines with this type of needle system. As for the cable, it's just a plastic cable. It has nice flexibility, and you can see it's kind of springy, this type of cable. It doesn't have a ton of memory. It's not like it's super kinked up. Here's the largest one, and you can see it has a curl in it. I personally am not bothered by a cable having memory. I've worked with these types of needles for so long, I just know how to manage it, and it's not something I think a whole lot about. One thing that's more important to me in terms of my cable is it has good flexibility, that it's not stiff. I just find that it's easier to manage a cable when it's not really stiff, like the Denise Interchangeable is. One nice thing too about their cables is that they are color coded. This is the shortest cable length. This is a 24-inch needle, and it's green. Their middle length, which is probably 32 inches, is orange, and their longest length, which is a 40-inch needle, for a 40-inch needle, is red. Sidebar, all circular needles are measured from tip to tip. So we say this is a 24-inch needle, but if you were to measure this cable, it would in fact be shorter than that, because that 24 inches is accounting for the size of the needle tips. My other Knitter Pride needles are these. These are a very special set of needles. They're black, but that's not what makes them special. These are made of carbon fiber with a metal tip. In terms of its grip, it's not as slick as a metal needle, but it's not as grippy as wood or plastic needles either. So, you know, the stitches move pretty well along the shaft of the needle, but then when it gets off to the tip, they come off very nicely, which makes it, to me, a really nice sweet spot in terms of having speed and control. And if I'm knitting Fair Isle, these are the needles that I turn to. The point is, it's not the sharpest point in the world, but it's certainly sharp enough. The only thing about this needle is the taper on this needle right here. It's not as long as some of my other ones. I notice more the taper when I get to one of the larger needles. This is a size 9, and the shorter taper on the size 9, I find to be a little bit more problematic than the shorter taper on some of the smaller needle sizes. The system operates the exact same as the cubic stew, where it's a screw-in system, and the cables are the same, the end caps are the same. Everything is pretty much the same except for the material that these are made out of. As I said earlier, these needles are more economical, and although I have never had a problem with any Knitter Pride needle that I have bought, I do know that they are known for having somewhat inconsistent quality. Hey, editing Carrie again. I just wanted to clarify what I just said in terms of Knitter's Pride being known for having inconsistent quality. That is not like general knowledge. That is based on my personal observation, reading reviews of the brand on Amazon, and comments I see in various Facebook groups. Any needle brand can have a lemon, just in terms of an individual set having a quality problem. I just see more of those types of comments in relationship to Knitter's Pride needles. Also, Knitter's Pride does guarantee their needles, so if you ever have a problem with them or any brand, you should contact either the manufacturer or the distributor from which you've bought the needles to get a replacement. Next are my Hiya needles. This might be the most versatile set of interchangeable needles that I have. This by far has the widest range of needle sizes of any set that I have seen. It goes down to a size 2 up to a size 15. So the Hiya needles, these are stainless steel needles. So they're hypoallergenic. These needle tips are very sharp. This is called the Hiya Sharps lace needle tips. And I mean, if the zombie apocalypse is coming, these are the knitting needles I want in order to save my life. When I did the speed test, interestingly, these were my slowest metal needles. These definitely have just the slightest more grip than the Knitter's Pride and the Addis, but it's not unpleasant. In fact, right now I'm using Hiyas to work with a linen yarn, and linen, being a plant-based fiber, is slipperier, so using a metal needle that has a little bit more grip to it with a fiber like that, it's not a bad thing. Okay, when I did the knitting test, all the other needles that I tested, I did at 24-inch length. However, my 24-inch cable for this set of needles is currently in use, so I used a 32-inch cable. And I think that slightly longer cable and the little bit of extra work that I had to do to turn the work added just a little bit more time. That being said, using these needles, I have no problem. And the quality of these needles are fantastic. I have no complaints about the quality of these needles. As for the cable, it is a plastic cable. And again, because it has plastic, there will be memory. The longer lengths are springy. I find the cable's fine. I don't love them, I don't hate them, they're just fine. So this system works pretty much the same way as the Knitted Pride, except that the needle tip is the male end, but you just insert it into the cable and twist on. Now, what's interesting about the Hiya is they actually give you two options to tighten down the needle tip onto the cable. One is the key, like we saw in the Knitter's Pride. The other option though they give you is a little rubber grip like this that you can use to hold this, get a firm grip and twist. Personally, I find that the key is a more reliable method than the rubber is, but you know, that's a matter of personal preference, and it's nice that you have an option. With this set also comes what they call their jumbo adapter and their mini adapter. And what these adapters do is allow you to use the cable with their largest needle size and their smallest needle size. And how they work is very straightforward. These are the jumbo. So you would just attach this to this end of the cable like this. And then you could take the jumbo needle size and attach that. But there's something else that's really special about this needle set that when I saw this, it blew my mind. This here is a barrel. What you can do with it is so cool. You can take your needle and screw it on like this, and then take one of these end stops and screw it on the other side, and you have a straight needle. Why do I think this is so cool? Well, I don't like knitting with straight needles. In fact, I don't think I ever knit with straight needles anymore unless they're DPNs. But there are cast-ons that are very unstable that you really need a straight needle in order to do them successfully. So everything I need in terms of needles is in this package, and that is so cool. Finally, my last sets of interchangeable needles, and that is my Addis. So I have two sets of Addis. These are both, please excuse this little disaster happening here. My cat who passed away, it's been several years, but I loved him dearly. And anyway, he sat on them one day and got happy, and so it has marks. So let's just pretend and just look at the pretty pink one that's in perfect condition. Anyway, this is the basic Addi Click interchangeable needles, and I'll just open them up. This is what they look like. You can see I have two needles that are currently in use, but anyway, I love these needles. The Addi interchangeable needle, the metal ones, all of them are made from hollow brass, and it has a nickel coating. The tip, it's a perfectly nice tip. It's sharp, but it's not the sharpest. I would call it a medium sharp tip in comparison to other sets that I have. The taper is fine. This is a nice medium taper. It's a perfectly nice taper. I have no complaints there. The cable is a plastic cable. This is a longer one. You can see it has memory. It's springy. The cable is fine. Some people aren't going to love this. Some people are going to be like me and not have an issue. This needle set is unique amongst the ones that you find. The needle has an internal spring inside of it. So you take the cable, you insert it into the needle tip, then you have to press down and twist it. All right. If I have this needle seated properly on the cable, I have never had this tip come off. Notice the caveat, however. If it's seated properly, you really got to make sure with this system that you have pushed down and gotten that cable to click into place properly. If you don't, it's going to come out. When you get a new needle tip, or you have a needle tip that you haven't used all that often, that internal spring can be stiff. This is a needle that I very rarely use. Let's put it in. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you really gotta, when you haven't used a tip, it takes so much force to kind of get it down there. You feel like you're gonna break it. You're not. There you go, I got it. but you got to push down hard and you got to twist. Once you've used the needle a few times and you've pressed down on that spring, it loosens up and it does get easier, but there's a little bit of a break-in that you have to do with these needles. The thing with the screw-on systems, the joint is very smooth. It's almost seamless. This click system, if you look closely here, there's an ever slight ridge right there between where the cable connects onto the needle tip. I personally have never had an issue with my Addis catching the yarn or having that join cause me any problems, but if that's something you think you might be sensitive to, be aware that that is something with the interchangeable system. This comes with the set. This looks like a really long connector. I have used this to create a longer length of cable and knit with it, and it's not a pleasant experience, but that's not what this is designed to do. In my opinion, this is really meant to be used so that you can turn your cable into a stitch holder by attaching either end of the cable into either end of this connector. Addi does sell end stops separately, so they don't come with the interchangeable needles. Maybe that's changed. I hope it has changed because I think it's kind of silly that they don't include them. But now I have what I think of as my pink Addis. These are the Addi long lace tip. No, I said that wrong. These are the Addi long tip lace needles. I'm not going to try to say that 5 times fast. I have some updated information. When I bought these tips over 10 years ago, this was called the Addi lace long tip needles because they had another set called Addi lace, which were short tip needles. They have since rebranded them as the Addi Standard Rocket, which makes sense to me because all of their needles that are lace tip needles, they've always called Addi Rockets. So they just brought their interchangeable needle sets in alignment with their branding. So same system. All sets, by the way, do come with this little needle gauge. I really do like this needle gauge, however, because it's nice and compact. And in fact, the one that came with my basic set is in my notions bag. One thing with the Addi lace tips right off the bat that's a little different is the cables that come with it are called the SOS cable. You may remember with the screw systems, they have the little hole, right? And you can use that hole to insert a lifeline while you're knitting. The Addi system, however, that needle tip, there's no hole there. So what they did with the SOS is they put a little slit in the cable. I don't know if you can see it here on camera or not, but I'll try to open it up. There, you can see it. So you bend the cable back like that, and there's a little slit to insert a lifeline, which is really nice. And in fact, if you're ever buying additional cables, I always recommend making sure that you get the SOS cable. So what's the difference between the long lace tip needles and the basic set? This is a sharper point on the end for lace knitting. Generally, people prefer having a sharper point when doing lace knitting because you're doing so many increases and decreases and having to work like 2 stitches together. It's nice to have a sharper point to do that with. And also the taper on the needle, there we go. The taper on the needle is longer. I wasn't sure that the speed difference between these needles and the other metal needles I had was real until I did that speed test. These are even faster than the basic set. I'm not kidding. When I did my test, I was shocked. The lace tip was 6 seconds faster. I don't know what magic Addi puts into these needles to make them as fast as they are, but these are hands down the fastest needles I have ever worked with. And as you can see, I've worked with a number of needles. These are the fastest in the land, hands down. On the boards, when people ask what interchangeable needle set they should buy, I would say the majority of people chime in and say the Chia Goo. I wanted to know why, so I bought the Chia Goo Fixed Red lace tip needle. You can always buy a fixed needle from the brand, and that's going to tell you a lot. It will let you know whether you like the cable, it will let you know if you like the speed of the needle tip, and it'll give you a good idea of the quality of the brand overall. You may not get to know exactly what that connection is like between the cable and the needle for the interchangeable, but if they've got a really nice connection on their fixed cable, they're probably going to have a really nice connection with their interchangeable set as well. So what makes the ChiaoGoo needle so special? Because I do know from ChiaoGoo that it does use a screw system, so it's not something unique like with Addi's or the Denise Interchangeable system. The tip, it's perfectly sharp, it's fine. This is as sharp as the Addi lace tip, in my opinion. The taper is a very nice taper. This is also made of stainless steel like the Hiya. And in terms of speed, this was a very nice needle in terms of speed. It was very nice to work with. Not as fast as my Addi's. I would say it's on par with my Hiya's. But what makes, I think, the ChiaoGoo a standout for knitters is the cable. Oops. It's the cable. There's stainless steel threads inside this tube. And what that means is you can twist and turn this and there is no memory. It stays straight every time. So if you're somebody who feels like they're really struggling with managing a interchangeable cable that tends to twist up and they feel like you feel like you're always fighting that cable, this might be the cable for you. Last but not least is this set of needles. This is a Knit Picks Caspian Birchwood laminate needle. This is an interchangeable needle. This was a sample that I got from them when I ordered some yarn. I had the opportunity to purchase a sample of this needle for like $3, which is great. It's a really nice way to be able to test out an interchangeable needle before you like go in and invest for the whole set. The reason I decided to give this a go was I was curious if maybe I would like this wood needle. I do not like wood needles. This convinced me once and for all that I am not a wood needle girl. And it actually makes me kind of sad because they're so pretty. I mean, look how pretty that needle is. There's a brand of interchangeable needles called Likey that do gorgeous wood needles. There's this one set called Indigo that just for aesthetics reasons, I ache for, but it would be a waste on me because I don't like wood needles. I mean, it's not that the stitches don't move across the needle. They just don't move as quickly. Also, the tip of the needle is just going to be more blunt than with a metal needle, or even I think my Denise Interchangeable needles, and the taper is fine. With slower needles like this, you really want to make sure that stitch gets onto the tip, and I'll make it easier for inserting. With blunter tips, definitely want to make sure that you don't end up working the stitches back here and that you're really working your stitches off the tip of the needle. This interchangeable needle system works the exact same as the Knitter Pride, where the female end is on the needle tip, the male end is on the cable. One thing that I do not like though is this cable. It is a plastic cable, but it is stiffer than the plastic cables of any other one of my sets. So I do not enjoy that about this particular cable, and that's why if I were to choose between Knitter Pride and Knit Picks, I would probably choose the Knitter Pride because of the cable. When I decided that I was going to rank my needle sets, I was like, but how do I tell my children they're not all my favorite? Because these are like my babies. Before I had a baby, these were my babies. So, but we're going to do it because you know what? These are inanimate objects. They don't care. They don't care what I rank them at. set? Well, if you watch this whole video, I don't think it's gonna come as a surprise that the Denise Interchangeable needles, is my least favorite. I don't hate these needles, I just don't love them. There's some nice features about this set, don't get me wrong. They're affordable, it's a very easy system to use. I do think if you have arthritis or any kind of grip issues with your hands, you may really enjoy these needles. The reason these are my least favorite is A, I do not like the cable. I just don't like how thick it is. I don't like how stiff it is. And the material is just not my favorite material to work with. These are plastic needles. The point isn't particularly sharp enough for my liking, and they're just a little bit slower. And I just feel like when I'm working with this, I'm kind of having to almost fight the needle a little bit in order to get the stitches to move. And I personally don't like that. However, if you're someone who likes a grippier needle, you might really enjoy these. Number 5 on my list is, this is so hard. This is so hard. I can't believe I'm doing this. I feel like I'm selling out my child. But number 5 would be my Knitter Pride cubic needles. The only reason I'm gonna put these at number 5 is because I think Knitter Pride generally, the quality is just a little bit less than what you find with the Hiyas or the Addis. That being said, this is a very good set of needles. They're economical, they're fast, the cable joint is smooth, the cable is perfectly fine to work with. This is a number 5, but it's more like a 1 A, B, C, D, E, F. Because I really love these needles. These are the needles that I usually travel with. Number 4 on my list of interchangeable needle sets, it just hit me why this is number 4, and it's a surprise to me too, and that is my Addi Basics. I mean, if you watched the whole video, you know I love these needles. The only reason I'm putting these at number 4 is because if I had to play a game of only one needle set can survive, this wouldn't be it. My lace tip needles do everything that this set does. Knowing everything I know about knitting now, as opposed to when I got these, this just is not the set that I would buy. But they're great. I mean, these are great needles. Number 3, these needles were really easy for me to place at number 3, and that is my Knitter Pride Karbonz needles. In terms of material, this is the most unique needle in my set. I mean, clearly, I have 4 sets of metal needles. 4. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I love these carbon fiber needles. It really hits a sweet spot for me in terms of speed versus grip. When I am working on a project or with a fiber where I want more grip, these are the needles I absolutely turn to. If something were to happen to this set, I would 100% replace them. Not even a question in my mind. If you're like me and you find that wood is too slow of a material to knit with, but you find that metal needles are way too fast, this could be a really nice material for you to check out. Okay, it's time. It's time for the interchangeable needle death match. 2 needles enter, 1 comes out. Which one is number 1? Is it the Hiyas or is it the Addi lace tip needles? I can make a very good argument that the Hiyas should be number 1. This is a very versatile set. The system works great. It's an incredibly smooth join. The cable is very nice. And it's so versatile with being able to create a straight needle if you need it for some reason. And the range of needle sizes that you're able to use from number 2 all the way up to number 15 is phenomenal. But it's not my number 1 set. Because these needles are just a little bit slower than the Addis. I didn't know when I started this process if the Addi lace tip needles were going to be my favorite needles, but they 100% are, and it has to do with the speed. These are my fastest needles. I love knitting with these. The stitches just fly off the needle beautifully. Whatever drawbacks there are with this needle set, and every needle set has its drawbacks, my enjoyment of using them just outweigh any of that. So they're my favorite needles. We're in it together. We're in it to win it together. We're in a long-term relationship, my Addi needles. My Addi lace needles, we are in a long-term relationship. This is my ride or die. This is my in it to win it forever BFF set of needles. Can I find more ways to say how much I love these needles? I don't think so. Now, I've covered a lot of ground with this video, but I did do a speed test, and on my blog, I'm going to put up that speed test and just a little bit of a comparison chart between each one. So if you want it for reference or anything like that, you'll be able to find it there. I hope that you found this video helpful. If so, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. I have lots of videos planned over the upcoming weeks, months, maybe years. We'll see how successful this is. And if you're interested to find out more about my thoughts, my preferences, my opinions about knitting, please subscribe and hit that notification bell, which will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And I think I need to have lunch. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, weekend, evening, whenever you may be watching this. Happy knitting. Bye. Pretty much the same way. Hubby and daughter are home. I have to say, this cable is very... Screw. Speaking of end stop, itch. When I did that knitting test, I did all of my other, my shorter needle, but also sometimes, the last 30 minutes I shot, I didn't have my mic on. So I'm gonna have to redo all that. It's okay. Serenity now. It's all good. You know what? It's gonna be even better. This is gonna be even better because now I know what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna get through this.